Okay, let's just jump right in on this one because we are going to do lists today, and lists are extremely similar to arrays, especially on the onset. As we dive in deeper, we're going to see them split apart and be their own entities. But from a basic standpoint, they are going to do roughly the same thing. But before we do that, let's go ahead and create a form. And in this form, I was super lazy. I just have a whole bunch of letters or labels. And if you click on each label, you will see I call them label 1, label 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I just created them, used their default names, and went top to bottom, then left to right. And then top to bottom again. And so we have a submit button. That's the only thing that's going to do anything. That's where we're going to put all the programming. And if we go into it, we are first going to see our good old-fashioned arrays. And the first one I want you to look at is this string names. So I have created an array, and it might look a little different because instead of saying new and then put a bunch of stuff in it, we just automatically fill this array. And if we fill it with 4 things, guess what size that array is? Yeah, it's 4. 4 elements inside of it, 0 through 3. So this is kind of nice, cheap and dirty way of doing it. You can do it the old-fashioned way of just to do the new string. In fact, that is actually, believe it or not, the suggested way to do it, I believe, still in C#. And then we got our 4 arrays. So if we were to push start here, we should see Bob, Donna, Tammy, and Steve here. Bob, Donna, Tammy, and Steve. Do not look at the second one next. In fact, I'm going to just do this for now. So the second set is where we actually employ the list. And as you can see, it's like an array in that it stacks a bunch of things in it of same data type. So in this case, they're all strings. We're going to call it names too, so it gets a name just like the first array. We have the new piece here, and now we're going to call it array, or excuse me, list instead of new data type. But we are going to include the data type inside the greater than and less than symbols, followed by some parentheses. Seems like a little bit more work, but as you will see, you may end up wanting to use these more than the original arrays. And we're going to fill it with 4 names. And let's go ahead and hit start again. So we got Tom, Donna, Ron, and Michael. Submit. They're all in order according to 0, 1, 2, 3, just like these were 0, 1, 2, 3, and everything works out well. Now the difference between lists and arrays initially, or what we're going to point out, is lists can continue on. Once I create a 4-part array, then I have to I'm stuck with that size for the rest of my life. So if I were to put 4 here and try to run it, yeah, I'm going to get an exception because it says outside the bounds of the array. Index was outside of the bounds of the array, which means that it has gone beyond the 4-part limit of the array. With lists, you do not have that problem. I can, at any time, add an extra piece. I can actually even subtract an extra piece. So that is what I'm going to be doing here in the start section. So let me go ahead and take these pieces back out. And here it says names to add Ronald. Now, where's it going to add it? It's going to put it in names, in this case, names 2, 4. And notice this is similar too. So names has square brackets when you try to find the members or the index, the element and its index. The same thing here when you do lists. You only tend to see these greater than less than symbols when you initially instantiate them. And now what we did here in the second part is we say that label text is equal to names 2, 4, which in this case would be Ronald. So let's go ahead and highlight that out and hit start. And when we hit submit, now Michael is replaced by Ronald. Thanks to adding that Ronald onto the end and then putting it in the label 8. Now there's a lot more things that you can do with lists. So let's take a look. Here are a short list of things you can do to lists, but we've used the add. So this dot add is really this dot add here. And notice we're putting the value inside the parentheses. So we're adding Ronald to the end because that's all it needs to know. It will find the end for you. You don't have to say, oh, this is going to be in the 4th spot or create a 4th spot. It'll automatically do it. You can do a remove as well. Count is useful because if you keep adding and removing, ultimately what you will get is a list where you don't know what the size is anymore. So it's always good, and actually I'm going to put a number of elements, I'm going to say just to keep it safe. Oops, let me hit stop there. So it's always good for you to have id count, and that is extremely helpful, especially if you're looping through them. So if you want to see what's in every part of the list, you just go from 0, I is equal 0, I less than count, and or dot count. In this case, it'd be names 2 dot count. You would make sure you go through the entire loop with it. Clear. Does exactly what it says, gets rid of everything, and then the insert will let you put a value at a specific place. In this case, it goes by the index number. And then, as you can see, I do a quick index up here, and what that is saying is it's going to search for Michael, which we know to be here, or names 2, 3 essentially. And then once it finds it, or actually it says where do you want to start at? So in other words, you don't have to search the entire list. You can start at, you can start 5 points in, but in this case we start at 0 because remember lists, just like arrays, start at 0. And then going to the end, or the 4th one, because now remember we added Ronald, so there actually is a 4, and then we put it to string. So if it finds Michael anywhere, it's going to return a number, or the index, and if it's going to return a -1 if not. So what happens here is it finds Michael in names 3, and let's see what it does. We end up putting it in label 8 text again, the results of. The reason why we put toString in here is because it returns an integer when you do that. So I'm going to hit submit, and it says 3 because 3 was 0, 1, 2, 3. Michael was in the 3rd slot, or the index equal to 3, 4th, but the 4th element essentially of that list. So there's some things you can play with. We will work with this because we have a nice project to work with, and we're going to play with both arrays and strings on that project at the end of these videos, to kind of show you how to employ them on something real world. We'll see you in the next video.